Manleni benye o nile loko. Esiku dede asiko yi. Hello everyone, it's Adirunke again. I hope your day is going well. Today, I'd like to talk about the word Alaafia. I'll be talking about the word and the fact that it's not a Yoruba word and it does not mean peace. I talked about it briefly on my Instagram along with other things, but I'd really like to go into it a bit further, if that's okay. So I already explained, for those who follow me on my Instagram, and I think I did Facebook as well. I know not a lot of people use those platforms actively. There are some people who prefer to watch videos and go. Alaafia is Arabic. It's from the Arabic language. Al is the. Afia is good health, wellness, or strength in relation to the health. So good health, wellness, strength, afia. So Alaafia is the good health, wellness, or the wellness, the strength. You can leave this out and just say good health, wellness, strength. So if you say yatik Alaafia, and I'm probably not saying it correctly, I should have gotten one of my Arabic speaking co-workers to say it for me. Yatik Alaafia, may God give you good health, is what that is. So when Yorubanized, we say Alaafia, and we sometimes use it in relation to health as well. Like somebody is sick, you typically hear Ọlọ́run á fún ẹ lálàáfíà, wà lálàáfíà, wà ní àlàáfíà, wà lálàáfíà when combined, wà lálàáfíà, àlàáfíà àdébẹ̀, and things like that. But many times we use it in relation to peace, which is not typically done from what I've heard, which is not, like, they typically just stick with salam and all that. I don't know, I think there's one more related word. They don't say Alaafia for peace, So that's the first thing that I noticed right off the bat, is we may not always use the word correctly. At least the way the Omani, Saudi Arabians or Egyptians, or the way that they will use it, we don't really use it correctly all the time. So regarding the correct use of the word, we may be lacking. And then secondly, regarding the pronunciation, I'm more than impressed. If I said Alaafia, I'm pretty sure that one of my Arabic speaking people would know that this is probably what I'm trying to say. Alaafia. They would know that I'm probably trying to say Alaafia, the way that they will say it with the right accent, So I'm particularly impressed, as opposed to words like al-dua, that has been modified so much so that al-dua, we remove the al, the li, the hell, what we would call the letter hell. We removed this from al-dua, and then we added r. So rather than al, then dash, dua, we say adura. So adura. This one makes sense. Adura doesn't really make sense. If it doesn't make sense in Arabic and in Yoruba, the meaning that it has is not quite, doesn't make sense either, then I don't really think we should keep it despite the level of resistance that I've received just by saying that if it doesn't make sense in Arabic and it doesn't make sense in Yoruba, if you want to say it, say it, but why should we? There's something that I forgot to mention, and it's the fact that ra in that video, and I'll link it, and it's the fact that ra can also be by. But if you say adura, the thing that you say to buy, then you're saying prayer is tantamount to transaction, bargaining. You're at that point treating your God like a trader, and the words that are coming out of your mouth, you're treating like what you would say to bargain, like a transaction, which I don't know how much good health costs, and I don't know how much just the air we breathe costs. So I know that somebody was trying to explain it to me through the Bible. They were very persistent, it seems, on making the word a Yoruba word, despite the fact that I've shown where it came from. And they were saying, Jesus is the price, and when we pray, we're buying from God. And it was like, oh, okay, that's fine by me. I'm not arguing. I'm just saying it really doesn't make sense. If it doesn't make sense in Arabic, if it doesn't retain its meaning, I'm pretty sure if I called one of my co-workers and I said adura, they would say that doesn't make sense. I'm either saying I'll dua or not making sense, or dua. But if in the Yoruba language it doesn't make sense either, it means the thing that you say to buy, or the thing that you say that rots. So rotten words. If it doesn't make sense in Yoruba either, then what word doesn't make sense? I think it was really eye-opening for me to receive that level of resistance. It bothered me, actually, and I know that a few people could tell that it was really bothering me. Like, what's wrong with us? When we have words for things, and the loan words are being placed over the original words that we have for things, then it's pretty dangerous. I was doing an experiment with Google Translate. Even this dictionary that I'm going to discuss extensively, I'm going to make a video on it soon, like I promised a few months ago, and all that. You'll find that a lot of it was modified from Ajayi Crowther's first dictionary. You'll find that in the next 50 years, a lot of words that we have our own words for, that we don't really need to loan any words for, will go extinct, and it will be these words. And I'm going to show you something on Google Translate so that you can see what I'm talking about. In the next 10 years, Google Translate will most likely be built upon, and more languages will be added and things like that. So I know that a lot of articles have been written about them not getting the words right in certain cases, or when it comes to sentences, the sentences being like really tone deaf, so not being correct, not really being a good translator that one can rely on, and things like there are articles like that about the fact that it's not really, but it's very likely that minimal corrections will be made here and there, and it will be built upon, and it would become the standard at some point, but it seems like there are just a lot. Adura, for instance, is not a Yoruba word. It's an unnecessarily loaned word. Not loaned because we don't have a word for it, but Nigeria has gone through 2 colonizations, and I'll talk about it in a bit. Loaned because it was for a cause, and I'm hoping that people will not get offended, but I'm going to get into a part of history that is not often discussed enough, that is often overshadowed by the British colonization. But several centuries, or at least several decades before, actually even several centuries, I think we got colonized in 1910 by the British, but there was already a lot going on then or 1914, I think. Officially, 1914. But anyway, there are so many dates to keep up with. I know that before 1914, a lot of things were happening. But there was already so much going on that was already affecting us as a culture and as a people, and it would have gone far. So anyway, prayer it's a wure, it's not a dura. Okay, trouble. See, wala is not a Yoruba word. Ishoro would work. Even idamu would work, but wala is not it. What other thing? See, peace. Alaafia, and that's the only option you're given. I'm trying to think of other things without getting distracted, because the more I see the browser, the more I would want to explore. But if I can think of other words like that, I'll add them. They are just full of loan words, unnecessarily loan words that are not our language, that don't really convey anything, as far as what makes sense to us is concerned, not just what we call the word. So that's the trouble. That's the trouble with these unnecessarily loaned words. This Wikipedia article, I'd really like you to explore. If you read this part on your own, it would give you a decent, and I've not tried to vouch for the accuracy, so that you'd have to do more research on to confirm that the dates and the centuries are indeed accurate. But this is a good paragraph to read on your own. So you might be wondering, how did we come by all these Arabic words? It was mainly because of Islamization. One thing we failed to discuss enough is that Nigeria would have become a very, I'd say, successful Islamic state at some point if the British had not come in, because what had happened as early as the 14th century and 15th centuries was history was being distorted. Our language was being slowly diluted and things like that for the sake of religion, I would say. So at that point, there were already theories that we came from Mecca, and the progenitor of the culture, you could say, came from somewhere in the Middle East. And in fact, the true religion of the Yoruba people is Islam. So they mention there's a way that, from what I see, it seems like they try to create an impression that black people came from, as opposed to what the scientists have said, that every race came from Africa. I think they wanted to create a sort of everybody came from the Middle East impression, and that we Yoruba, something happened sometime, and somebody came and created the Yoruba, traveled all the way from the Middle East to present day Nigeria and its environs, and created the Yoruba people. So it was much easier from the impression that I get, and if you hear people speak, they got the impression that their true religion really is this newly introduced religion. The language was also being distorted. So keywords, I think people were being encouraged to use these Arabic words, and also the culture was being demonized, and Yoruba was being written. There was this Ajami, it's called Ajami. Yoruba was already a written language at some point, way before Ajayi Crowther was kidnapped, and way before he developed the current writing system that we use. And even till now, it still exists. They still use it in this Ile Kewu and all that. And you can read this Wikipedia article as well. Ajami, which comes from the Arabic root for foreign or stranger, is an Arabic script used for writing African languages, particularly those of Hausa and Swahili, including Yoruba, Fulani, and Fula. So the pre-colonization, I think that's why it's not really regarded much. It was so gentle and subtle. I think government would have been the last step, but our people already knew about the Sharia law, and they were already sort of getting used to. I think it came with some social benefits as well. They were non-threatening. These Malians and the Fulani and other people that came, these Arabic scholars that came, they were non-threatening at all. They did not really threaten the monarchies, and so there were lots of kings who became Muslims. It just seemed really gentle and friendly, So the language was, there are lots of words that we've even forgotten. Somebody was telling me on Instagram that we actually have a word for onion. We say alubosa, which came from the Arabic al-bazal, but we don't remember. I think it's only like the Ekiti people, or like maybe the Ondo people. I think some say alade. I don't know if that was what everybody was saying before everybody forgot and we just started to speak Arabic and call it Yoruba. There are a couple of words like that. I think I scribbled them and I don't know where I put it, that we've completely even forgotten. Nobody, if you go to some of the kings, they could not tell you what it was. They would mention these Arabic words, and that's what's going to happen, until we even stop using the. At least somebody remembers that the original was alade or something like that. Me and someone were joking in my comment section. I don't remember their name. That we should probably give it a new name, So that was what happened. The British had power, for goodness sakes. It was like the Great Britain. They had political, social, economic power. So they just came and took over the monarchies, took over the resources, took over the lands, made themselves authorities, and it was like, so even till now, there's still like some hurts, and especially in the, I would say more in the north, about the effort. I think when you look at groups like Boko Haram and other groups like that, when you look at their very core, a lot of it is as a result of the hurt. Like what effrontery do the Westerners think they have to just take over the work that we were doing here? They were more subtle. Government, taking over the government would have been the very last thing on the list. They successfully, I would say Ilori, for instance, they successfully took, and it's like a major, you could say it's a major Muslim state in many ways, not officially, but just, I don't think anything, with how much it thrives there. But anyway, the plan was like really to Islamize. If you read Usman Danfodio's texts, you see, I think the major plan was just to Islamize the West Africa, or Nigeria and other neighboring West African states. So yeah, there's a lot that can be said about, but the British just came, and it's now the British government, and you're now colonized and your resources are now under control. They had more force. These people were a little bit more gentle, and they were creeping into the language, demonizing the culture. And it was around this era that a lot of sayings that we never used to have just started coming out of the blue. And the way that And the way that women were seen, especially women that had like significant power, just started to change. It was around this era that statements like kàkà kó sàn lára ìyá àjẹ́, ó ń fi gbogbo ọjọ́ bímọ obìnrin, ẹyẹ wá ń yí lu ẹyẹ, and there are lots of sayings like that, some of which we don't even say anymore because I think we're getting even more modern in many ways. But there are statements like that. Even passion. There are lots of things that, anyway, and I don't want to offend anybody. Passion as well came around. Not that I'm not saying it has any attribution. I'm just saying several statements like that. Yeah, so this is something that I'd like you to do your research on. We just say, oh, we're colonized by the British, but I think Arabic and the fact that it has crept into the language, and that there are so many words, more than we think, more than Adura and Alaafia and Wahala and Alubosan, more than we think, is something that we need to do some research on. But anyway, let me go into the correction. Ilera is health. That's the proper word for health, not Alaafia. Ilera. That's the proper word for good health, wellness, strength. If strength in the good health sense, which I don't even have to say good health sense, yeah, for strength. Ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀. In a different dialect, you could say ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀. So we say this a lot, but the word is ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀. Ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀. Ìfi-ọkàn-bá-ilẹ̀. I'll break it down soon. Ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀. But ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀. In other dialects, for instance, using my own dialect as a case study, I'm from Igbajo. Many people say, ká má bàa jìyà, la ṣe rán má jìyà lọ́fà. In my dialect, we say, ká má bàa jìyà, la ṣe rán má jìyà lọ́fà. So rather than say má jìyà, we say má jìyà. And I think that's what's happened here. The inflections just change. But if you still break this down, you will still get the same words that you get when you break this down. Ìfi-ọkàn-balẹ̀. Ìfi-ọkàn-bá-ilẹ̀. Ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀. 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 Or ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀. They mean the same thing. Peace. And then sometimes Alaafia is used in the I am well, thank you sense too as well. Ṣé dáadáa ni. Sometimes you hear ṣàlàáfíà ni. So, but if you're talking about well anyway, dáradára or dáadáa is what you're going for. Let's look at ìlera and see how it's health. If somebody tells you something, the Yoruba words, like I've said in the video on Iwure, are not cryptic at all. You can literally see the at least you'll find one verb or one adjective. You can typically see how the words come together. They are not mysterious at all, and they are only source of history, source of connection to our initial ancestors. So it's through those words that we would know what they were thinking about, how they came about that. Maybe something has changed, about how we see health or something. Typically, these words help you see, like I was saying in the video on Iwure, that it's not really prayer in and of itself. That the English equivalent for it is prayer, but it's a lot more beautiful, richer, when you look at the word itself. Ilera is ile-ara combined. I is the noun maker, and I talked about noun makers in that video. There are prefixes that you add before verbs or adjectives to make them nouns. In this case, it's an adjective. And in that video, I forgot to mention, I said you would add the prefixes to the verbs, but I forgot to mention that the prefixes started to be added to the adjectives as well. But I did promise to make a separate video on it, which I will do. I is a noun maker. The state of. Le is strong, hard. Ara is body. So ileara is what you combine to form ilera. I, le, and ara are what you form to get ilera. And I, the state of strong, hard body. So the state of strength in the body. That's how we see good health. That's how our initial ancestors saw good health. So the words are, I think that's why it's important to say the proper words, because you're going to lose that connection. We don't have any books from like 500 BC or anything. We don't have any. So this is what we have, and we should cherish them instead of saying, well, what's the fuss with letting go of the words and letting the loanwords take over. What's the the state of strength in the body, good health or wellness of the body. So I have an example sentence here, or a couple of example sentences. If you want to say I am healthier or I am stronger, rather than say mo ti ní àlááfíà, you'd say ara mi ti le, ilé ara. My body, ara mi, the adjective comes after the noun. Ara mi ti has become strong, has become healthy. So mo ti ní àlááfíà would not be the proper Yoruba word to say it. Couple of centuries before now, people would not know. Before the 14th century, nobody would know what you're saying if you say mo ti ní àlááfíà in present day Yoruba land, in present day southwestern Nigeria. So what they would have said, and what is the proper thing to say, is ara mi ti le, ara mi ti, kò sí ibi tí ń dùn mí, ara mi le ju tàná lọ, kò sí ibi tí ń ara mi ti le. If you want to say I am unwell, rather than say mi ò ní àlááfíà, mi ò ní àlááfíà, or mi ò lálàáfíà, you could say ara mi ò le, ara mi ò le. Or you could also say ara mi ò yá. Ya is fast, to be fast, to have the right speed. So it's not really functioning well. You know, that would be ara mi ò yá. But this one is I am not strong, I am not well, I am not healthy. Ara mi ò le, ara mi ò le. So rather than mi ò ní àlááfíà or mi ò lálàáfíà, you say ara mi ò le. If you're looking for Alaafia in relation to peace, you know, the word has nothing to do with peace. If you're looking for the right word for peace, like I've said, ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀ is what you would be going for. And these are the, you could say, words that combine, words and prefix that combine to form ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀. Ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀. Ìfi ọkàn bá ilẹ̀. Look, this is what it is. And it's really beautiful. The act of, fi, the word, and I'm just treating the words, what they mean in and of themselves before you combine them to form ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀. Fi is put, ọkàn is the heart, and we can break this down into even further. Kan being to touch, but maybe I'll make a separate video. Ọkàn, in and of itself, ọkàn is not hard. I'm hoping that by the time I'm done with this series, this in and of itself and Loanwords series, I hope I won't be severely hated. Ba is on. Ba is the word, actually. Ba, that's the word. I just broke it down like this. But ba is the word in and of itself. But because something is, a noun is coming after it, it changes. Rather than ba ile. I'll talk about that in the Yoruba lessons for beginners series. The fact that sometimes the tones of words may change depending on where they are in the word, if you're combining different words, if you're using them in combination of with other words to form a different word, or you're forming a sentence, ba would be like on here. The ba is to perch on, ba lori igi, to perch on the tree. So be like perch on, or just simply on in this case. Ile is the ground, the earth. So if you ọkàn bá ilẹ̀, the proper way to say it would mean the act of putting the heart on the ground. The act of, we put a lot of importance on ile, and I'm sure that by now, because I've mentioned ile in several videos recently, you may now start to realize just how important the heart, the heart and the earth is to us. You may start to realize the earth is really important. Farabalẹ̀, fọkànbalẹ̀. There's a lot of ile. Because we see ile as, we're very practical people, as grounding. I think our initial ancestors recognized gravity and balance, as one of the immediate attributes of the earth, of the ground, balance. So the act of putting the art I can't pronounce. The act of putting the heart on the ground is what we imagine being at peace to be. Being at peace, or simply peace. You could use it in the being at peace context, or peace context. We think when we put our hearts on the ground, then we're at peace. Then we have balance. Then we're at peace. When you put your heart on the ground. Not necessarily literally. What that would mean when translated over is when you ground yourself, when you're grounded, you're at peace. So that's what the ancestral thought was regarding peace. So example statements anyway, let's not, we can talk about this some other time, the philosophical aspect and maybe what that would mean as far as certain poses and certain gestures, and certain things are concerned. But that would be under spirituality, not language. There's a bit of everything in everything. There's a bit of language in, not just a bit. There's spirituality in language and culture, and everything is intertwined. Be at peace or put your mind at rest won't be wani Alaafia. Again, before 14th century, we didn't know what the hell this didn't know what this was or what this is. I'm still surprised about the fact that Alaafia was not changed at all. It's retained its form. Anyway, wani Alaafia won't be correct. Fi ọkàn rẹ balẹ̀. Fi ọkàn rẹ balẹ̀. Put your heart on the ground. Be grounded. Be at peace. Put your emotions, your heart on the ground. Ground yourself. Bale anyway is ba and ile. Ba and ile combined. Just in case you're wondering what is bale, I'm combining, as I said, ifọkànbalẹ̀ or fífọkànbalẹ̀. If you're using it in a ifọkànbalẹ̀, fi ọkàn rẹ balẹ̀. Put your heart on the ground. Be at peace. If some people use Alaafia in the well sense, the wellness sense as well. I think it works as well. We would work because that's what the word Alaafia is. Again, I'm not saying don't use Alaafia. You can do whatever you want, but do it with the consciousness that there are Yoruba words for this, and you're choosing to borrow, not necessarily because we don't have. Somebody was giving me the English scenario, like, oh, the English borrowed words from the French and the this, and I'm not disputing that, but under normal circumstances, if it's not colonization or evangelism or conversion oriented, borrowing words would have to come through if you don't have your own words for things. I think that's what happened to the English language. There's the Old English, but it was really very limited. So they started to borrow words from Latin, which went extinct. Oh, Latin, beautiful language. And now it's another language that is enjoying its richness. But anyway, from Latin, from German, then they started to convert it or modify it slightly and make it English. But it's because they didn't have. When we have our own words, why would you willingly partake in the Latinization, the slow death of your own language? It beats me. Da, ara are what you combine to form dara, and dara is like duplicated. Dara, 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 dara. When it's typically like a lot of our adjectives are like sorry, not adjectives, adverbs are like that. They are just words duplicated. Da, ara, da, ara. Da would be well or in a good state. Ara is body. If you say Èdùmàrè á mú ẹ lára dá, Èdùmàrè will make your body well. Èdùmàrè will put your body in a good state. So in a good state of the body or well. So if you, for example, if you say Erin lẹ mú mi lára dá, you're saying Erin lẹ made me well. If you're saying if you want to say I am unwell, you would say ara mi ò dá. Ara mi ò dá, I am unwell. So da is typically well or in a good state. Good state, So dara, so you can see. And I don't know why I duplicated this slide. But anyway, rather than saying ṣé àlàáfíà ló wà, for are you well? Are you in a good state? And it's not just physical health, it could be mental health. Ṣé àlàáfíà ló wà? You could say ṣé dáadáa ló wà. Ṣé dáadáa ló wà. And the person can reply by saying dáadáa. Ṣé is like a question starter. So it fits different contexts. It could be did, it could be, depending on the words that you combine, it could be when, it could be why, it's such a versatile question starter. Is it good or well that you are? Ni-o is what is combined to form lo. Ni-o. Please let me know what you think. I'd like to see what you think, just so that it doesn't feel like I'm talking to myself. The engagement is typically not too good. So I really like to know what you think, and even if you're offended, let me know so that I can apologize. Don't be offended. I'm just saying, And I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy the rest of your day, and bye for now.
Yemaja wa bá wa sí àwọn olóde dáṣe. Yemaja olórí òdìdí àmú. Bí màmá ṣẹlẹ̀ o sá bàbá mi ààrẹ mú má jẹ́ rọ́ọ̀nù tó láyé ìpamí o.
Yemaja ìyé.
Ojú mi àtẹ̀yìn ó di o. Jẹ́ ilé jẹ́ lódò o sá bàbá mi ààrẹ mú ojú mi ọ̀tẹ̀yìn ó di o. Yemaja ìyé. Ojú mi àtẹ̀yìn ó di o. Ilé jẹ́ lódò o sá bàbá mi ààrẹ mú ojú mi ọ̀tẹ̀yìn ó di o.
Yemaja ìyé.